Hey everyone, it's the Dr. Jason West Wednesday night, 6 o'clock program. And what we're going to be talking about is heart. Everything heart related, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, cardiovascular disease. And we're just going to cue a couple things up. So stick around, we're getting right after it. All right, everyone, let me get this clicked over. I can't wait to share with you what I know about heart health. And the reason why I'm so excited to share this is because the heart is the most important muscle in the body. It's the first muscle that shows sign of nutritional stress or inadequacy. It's also the first muscle that repairs. It's so important for your adrenal health. And if your heart is feeling off, you are feeling off. And so there's so many different ways. I'm so excited to share this with you. And a couple favors that I would ask. Number one, we do this every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. We try and take a topic, and I got asked to do information about the heart and specifically high blood pressure. We're going to talk about magnesium. We're going to talk about vitamin D. I forgot to put in the presentation, but I wanted to tell you about olive leaf. It's such a wonderful thing for blood pressure and the miracle mineral of magnesium. So here's my request for you. If you're on this, please put in a comment in the comment section. You can get a free report on this. If you'll just put in the comment section, #heart, we're going to put together kind of a summary of everything we have. I'd also love to get some information on different healthcare topics. If you have one, or if you have a recommendation or a suggestion of what to do, please put it in the comment section. Tell me where you're watching from, the report health, if you have a health question, but let's get after the heart. Like I didn't know how much I really like the heart until they started telling me this is what we should do. We want to talk about high blood pressure, but just as important, everyone, is low blood pressure. If your blood pressure is low, you are going to feel like an engine that doesn't have enough horsepower. And sometimes it's accidentally caused by beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, diuretics. Unintentionally, you want to get, the pressure out of the system. But the other thing, you guys, that happens that's really, really important is it can flush off trace minerals. It can interfere with different metabolic processes. And so you want to have the blood pressure just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You want it too hot, that's high blood pressure. You don't want it too low, that's low blood pressure. And so that's everything we're going to be talking about. I mean, today's topic, mainly on blood pressure. We're also going to touch a little bit on congestive heart failure and what you can do to rebuild the heart. And by the way, you guys, a lot of this information, it's not taught inside of a medical school or a chiropractic school or a naturopathic school. Like, it's just not taught there. So once again, in the ask, if you guys have a comment, if you're getting value from the videos, if you want to share it with someone, please give a comment because that lets me know that you're there. We're going to be talking about heart health. And so you guys, let's jump right into this. Let's start talking about what we can do for the heart. Here's the presentation that I put together. And so with that being said, everyone, whoa. Let's get after it. Here it is. Okay, I wanted to give a big shout out to my team. I've got a great team inside the office that makes so many things happen. And of course, if I start talking about names and everything like that, I'm going to miss someone. So just the entire team helps us to put these programs together. And then more important than that, it's the people that come into the office. We're actually working with them inside of the trenches. And so I wanted to give a shout out on that. What a neat place. I get to go to work every single day, and I love those guys. So let's talk about, diseases, healthcare, medical. Blood pressure is such an important deal. It's so frequently associated with diabetes, with kidney disease, with heart disease. I mean, like I said, out of all the muscles, like it's the most important muscle that is the heart. It's the first muscle to show stress or nutritional inadequacy. It's the first muscle to respond. And there's so many neat things that you can do for heart health if you're aware of them. Now, every healthcare condition is going to respond to a lifestyle correction. It may not feel like it at first, but getting your body on a schedule. And you know, one of the best things that I see with blood pressure comes too high and too low is increasing your water intake. Like, it's such an important aspect of health. It's underrated. I consider it an essential nutrient, just like vitamin D, just like vitamin C. And so getting your body on a schedule, and then it goes without saying, like, movement is so important. The more I read about exercise, and again, just like, you know, vitamin C, just like beta carotene, just like vitamin D or vitamin A, if you get extreme amounts of those supplements or those nutrients, they can be toxic to you. Now, it takes a whole bunch to get there, but the same thing happens with exercise. So sometimes I'll have, you know, a high endurance athlete that, you know, it does these 100-mile runs and does Ironman competitions, and I think you can push it too much that way. But for the most part, everyone, if we would just move a little bit more, it's so dang helpful for blood pressure. So before anybody thinks I'm going to go tell you to run a marathon or a half marathon or a 10K or something, I think some easy steps is to find something that you like and do that. Let me give you an example. Like, you're probably never going to catch me out running a 5, a 10K, or a marathon, but I really do like to move. You know, I like to go out and I like to ride dirt bikes. I like to snow bike. I can even get on, you know, a treadmill or elliptical. And what I'm telling people when it comes to cardiovascular health, find an activity that you like and then do that activity. So that's one of my favorite recommendations of, you know, is it gardening? Is it walking? Is it splitting wood? Is it working in your shop? Is it, you know, anything that makes you move and be active? And a great recommendation is to tell people, look, take the stairs instead of the elevator, park your car a little bit farther away. And when you're moving, what it's doing is not only is it making the heart do what it's supposed to do, but it's also flushing lymph nodes. And remember, lymph nodes are the infection processing centers of the body. And so you really want to make sure that you're getting movement into the system. And so when we start talking about that heart system, everyone, it is so critical. And I'm excited to tell you how we can build the heart and make it healthier. And so, okay, just one second to, come on, bounce. There we go. Okay, how the heart works. So it's the center of your circulatory system. It's a network of blood vessels that delivers blood. And remember, blood carries oxygen and nutrients to everywhere in the body. And the body needs the nutrients and oxygen to stay healthy. Also, what the heart does is when it's beating and the muscles are contracting, it's taking the waste products from the muscles and it's taking it over to the kidneys and the liver to get it outside of the system. So I love the fact that red blood cells deliver the groceries and they take out the trash. And central to that, the whole motor system is the heart. And, you know, it is a muscle. And if the muscle is working right, then what happens is you are working right. So when we have the heart, and this is one of the easiest ways, everyone, to explain what the heart is doing, if we have proper communication between the heart and the adrenal glands, good things happen. And we talk about this in our 5-day live programs of the easiest way to evaluate if the heart is healthy or not is to do Ragland's test. Now, what is Ragland's test? That's when you take your blood pressure lying down. It should be 120/80 with the pulse rate of 60 to 80. That's the best. And then when you have people stand up, the blood pressure should go up and the pulse rate should stay the same. This is under control of that magnificent system called the adrenal glands. If the adrenal glands are not working right, what happens is we get arrhythmia. We get this heart that flutters. It's trying to catch up. And so we can support the adrenal glands. There's basically a way to do that. There's also a really nice system of vitamin B number 4 that puts the electrical connectivity back into the heart. In my experience, it literally works like a nutritional pacemaker. And so that heart muscle is so important to modulate stress and to see what's happening over here. And when we don't have a good heart muscle, we have is an impending sense of doom. We just feel like we're off. And I put this a picture of some vegetables and fruits inside of an infusion, because that's the way that I like to help with the most. But I also wanted to just go back and review some of the common diagnoses with heart dysfunction, such as high blood pressure and low blood pressure. And in all honesty, low blood pressure, I think, is a little bit harder to treat than high blood pressure. We have cardiac disease, we have congestive heart failure, and POTS. And if you've had POTS, man, it's kind of a tough. What POTS is it stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which means if you're lying and you're sitting for a time period, and then you go to get up, what happens is your heart races. People feel like they pass out. Rarely they pass out, but a lot of time of fainting. And then, of course, heart disease. Now, heart disease and cardiac disease are the same thing. I must have been too late at night for me to be working on this. But easy to look at the heart by doing some simple, inexpensive tests. The first one is to do that blood pressure test. Again, blood pressure lying down, blood pressure standing up. When it's lying down, 120/80 is kind of the ideal range. When you stand up, it should be 6 to 10 beats higher, like 126/86, and your pulse rate will stay the same. And so if we can help people to get there, and that's the easiest way to look at the heart. Now, that's called the Ragland's test. I've got some white text you can't see very well. What we want to see is your blood pressure go up when you stand up, or your blood pressure go up when you're in periods of stress. Now, one of the fascinating things about that is if your blood pressure, if you're in chronic stress and you stress a little bit more, guess what happens? Your heart has a tendency to drop blood pressure and drop pulse rate. And people feel like, man, I'm just out of gas. Are you going to die from that? Well, we're all slowly dying, so it's kind of a trick question. But are you going to feel good if your heart is tired? And the answer is no. No one feels good. No one feels good when we have that type of interaction. Okay, blood pressure standing should be 6 to 10 beats higher, and the pulse rate should stay the same. High blood pressure is typically 140/90, and the pulse rate, again, there's some variability here, but what's really important is if you are doing a lot of exercise, you can have a lower heart rate in the 50s, even in the 40s. If you're not doing a lot of exercise, what happens is people don't feel good when they have a racing heart. So we want to be really careful with that and know what it is. The flip side is when you don't have enough horsepower inside of your engine, and that's the low blood pressure, typically lower than 90/60. And again, if the pulse rate gets too low, I mean, our heart is just a great big engine. And so if we don't have enough horsepower in the engine, you're not going to feel very well. And so you want to make sure that your heart is low. And I'm going to go over what to do about this in just a minute. Okay, one of the other things that happens in heart conditions is people head toward what's called congestive heart failure. If the heart can pump, systolic or fill, which is diastolic adequately, so shortness of breath, fatigue, swollen legs, and rapid heart rate. And one of the things that my dad taught me that I'm excited to share with you is what you can do for congestive heart failure to support some of the medical interventions associated with that. We already talked a little bit about POTS, the racing heart, the stress, the standing, anxiety, dizziness, blurred eyesight, and cardiovascular disease. We kind of group that into artery disease when you're getting too much junk inside of the vessels, and you can have these TIAs, which is the mini strokes, peripheral artery disease when you're not getting good blood flow to the extremities, the heart failure, and the arrhythmias that all can come from the heart not working very well. So we keep talking about all these disease process and the medical treatments. It's so common to see in the medical world. Okay, let's get you on a blood pressure, a calcium channel blocker. We'll get you on a water pill. But is there anything natural that you can do to help support that? And so I kind of put together my favorite list of natural things that I think are really good for people to be aware of. We're going to go into a little bit more detail, but the magic vitamin D, the miracle mineral magnesium, an herb, Hawthornberry, There's a heart rebuilder that we're going to go through, some B vitamins that are super important. You know, niacin is such a wonderful natural thing of flushing the blood vessels, of helping the liver. You know, there's a lot of benefit I see in helping people that have liver conditions with niacin and some of the advanced therapies. So let's get after it and talk a little bit about vitamin D. Vitamin D, it was discovered in 1930. Low levels are linked to cardiovascular disease. It's anti-inflammatory and it helps neurology. It probably would be easier to write a book about what vitamin D does not do instead of what it does do. But one of the profound benefits that it has in my clinical experience is that it really helps blood pressure concerns, both too low and also too high. So what can we do with the vitamin D? Well, one of the most important things to recognize about vitamin D is there's no known food source. Vitamin D is one of the only things that you can do that you have to supplement with, or you have to make sure that you have enough essential fatty acids in your body that gets into your skin. And when ultraviolet hits your skin, basically it converts the essential fatty acids to cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D3. Now, one of the funnest things to talk about is the miracle vitamin of the magnesium. Now, what magnesium does is it really helps to control muscle and nerve health. It has amazing cardiovascular effects. It's good for congestive heart failure, for high blood pressure. It's good for muscle cramps and also for restless leg syndrome. And I've found that magnesium is the universal deficient molecule or mineral in things like mixed connective tissue disease and fibromyalgia. Now, one of the best sources, and what I wanted to throw this slide in here, is because vitamin D you have to supplement, but magnesium, nuts, beans, cereal grains, dark leafy vegetables, magnesium is just, it's the bomb. It's one of my favorite things to recommend for people. It has profound breathing effects that are really important to have. Magnesium influences all aspects of cardiovascular health. It's good for sticky blood. It helps to thin the blood healthy. It blocks too much calcium. It relaxes blood vessels. It reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, and it increases the rate if anybody in your inner circle has had a heart attack. One of the most important things to help prevent additional heart attacks is magnesium. Now, one of the things that we do inside of the office is intravenous magnesium, giving it the early stages of breathing difficulties like asthma and allergies, also heart, concerns. And one of the things that they've seen in emergency medicine is giving magnesium intravenously, approximately 70% decrease in deaths 1 month following the event. So if you or a loved one has had any cardiovascular concerns, make sure that you're getting magnesium. Now, the best source of that is your knife and fork, the nuts, the beans, the green leafy vegetables. I personally take about 500 to 600 milligrams of magnesium every day because I think it's so healthy for you. And out of all the healthcare concerns that I'm faced with, I don't want any dementia. I don't want anything happening with my brain. I can handle gray hair and wrinkles, but not brain problems. And so this is one thing that I'm very faithful about taking is the magnesium. Now, I also wanted to share this slide, so let me get it blown up over here. Magnesium, around 500 milligrams a day and all the way up to 1,000. Now, I'm just doing a preventative dose for me at 500 milligrams, but it can reduce systolic and diastolic pressure. It's not the primary treatment for hypertension. I mean, that's one of the things they put in the study, but a comprehensive review of 44 human subjects and 43 publications shows that repeated magnesium supplements enhances the blood pressure effects of the prescription therapy. So how neat is that? It doesn't interfere with medicines. It actually just makes the medicines more effective. And so that's fun to talk about. The other thing is Hawthornberry. What is Hawthornberry? So hawthorn is an herb. It's a plant-based medicine. And I love this as basically a synergistic thing. What hawthorn does is it helps to regulate high and low blood pressure, and it's good for atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is the plaque buildup that we see in cardiovascular disease. So there's some other things I want to talk about with the plaque buildup, but one of the things that really helps plaque, the buildup, and if you've had this or you know someone that has this, is anti-inflammatory diets, getting rid of junk foods, increasing your water intake, increasing your exercise is just what helps Hawthorn to be even more effective. Okay, it helps with improve the amounts of blood pumped out of the heart when the blood vessels, and it increases the transmission of nerve signals. So one of the things that's really important to recognize, especially with atrial fibrillation, stuff like that, is the heart is out of timing, it's out of rhythm. And your heart is like two fists that sit on top of each other. You have the right side of the heart and the left side of the heart. So blood comes into the right atrium, it basically squeezes, it pushes blood over into basically the different chambers of the heart and over to the lungs. And then it comes back oxygenated. The left side of the heart basically squeezes. So you got this lub-dub thing, lub-dub. It's kind of like wringing a dish towel, but instead of wringing it all at once, you have this timing. And when the timing gets off and it's kind of going like this, I'm going to put it over here, that's the atrial fibrillation and the loss of control. And it's not fun. No one likes a quivering heart. And so Hawthorn, one of the beautiful things that it does here is it helps to improve the blood of the health. It widens the blood vessels and increases the transmission of nerve signals. I just absolutely love Hawthorn. It's in almost all of the nutrients that we prescribe for heart conditions. And then we get over to another thing that I think is just fantastic, which is niacin. So what is niacin? Niacin is a vasodilator. It produces energy, it helps with the different enzymes, and it's really good for cholesterol because it helps to clean the liver. And the benefit is it's a bug killer. So people that have chronic immune deficiency problems, one of the first things I recommend is, hey, let's improve your niacin, which we can get in organ meats, you can get some in eggs, you can get some in, again, your green leafy vegetables, which is kind of the rule for everything, green and leafy, like have at it. But here's what's really important, you guys. If you're considering niacin to help your health, one of the first things that I'll tell you is you want the flushing kind. And everybody says, well, wait a minute, Dr. West, I don't like the flushing kind. Because it brings the blood to the surface, it kind of makes me itch and it makes me get hot. Hey, it's just until your body gets used to it. The non-flushing niacin, I don't think is as beneficial. I haven't seen as good clinical outcomes without the flushing niacin. Niacin is one of my favorite things. Vitamin B3 has enormous benefits. And now, just as a funny story to show you that sometimes you got to be careful. We moved into a basement in 2006 in our office park, and our office park floor was on cement, and it would get really cold in the wintertime, and it felt like it was just traveling up your legs. And I was complaining to my dad one time about it, and he said, you know what? If you want to have better circulation, let's get you some niacin. Here, take this stuff called Niatherm. And I took the Niatherm, and I thought, I can remember him saying, take one pill in the morning and one pill at night. And I thought, hey, you know what? If a little is good, a lot's better. So what did I do? I take 2 niacin. It's the first out of the gate. I literally put that about 10 minutes later. I felt like I was on fire. I want to say it was January or February. I took my shoes and socks off. I walked outside in the snow, and I felt like a cartoon character. There was steam coming off of my feet because of the niacin. Now, repeated uses of niacin, you get the benefits, but you decrease the flushing intake. And so make sure that niacin, like, it is literally a hidden weapon. Okay, now with other heart things, here we go. I want to talk about something specifically that my dad taught me. I didn't learn this in school. It's called cardiotrophin. Now, this is one of those things that is just in the trenches, 105 years of treatments with people. Cardiotrophin, I'm going to read it actually out of my book here. The description, I uploaded it and I didn't come through, so I'm just going to have to bear with me just for a second. All right, cardiotrophin is basically a refined extract of cow heart. Now, there's a specific way that it's processed, and what it does is cardio means heart and trophin means rebuilder. There's only one company that I'm aware of that makes this, but it assists the entire muscle by influencing the range of the muscle cell membrane. It helps with the sympathetic nervous system, and it helps glucose uptake and ATP in the heart. Now, this is all based upon the clinical experience of my father and my grandfather, but also of myself in practice. And I've seen really good outcomes in helping people with a little bit of mojo for congestive heart failure. Now, I don't want to mismanage anybody's expectations that immediately you'll go back to a normal heart, but this is one of the go-to things for cardiovascular disease is Cardiotrophin. And then the next magic thing is something called vitamin B number 4. Now, everybody talks about B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B12, but vitamin B4, what it does is it acts like a nutritional pacemaker, and it supports the heart health nerve transmissions. One of the things that I see really good is it helps with a irregular heartbeat, or whether it's fibrillating, and then some advanced therapies. Now, this is kind of a medical illustration, so I apologize for everybody to show a little bit of female anatomy, but I'm always talking about neural therapy and taking a glycolized ester of para-aminobenzoic acid. So that's a B vitamin that makes your nerves open and then close and reset. And there's a specific German protocol called neural therapy where it really helps to do these little points. And what it does is it opens up the heart. And so you have an opening, close, and reset of basically the nerves going to the heart. In my clinical experience, it's a really nice non-invasive therapy. It looks like little mosquito bites, but it's so good for resetting the heart. So when you have high blood pressure, magnesium, I've seen some good benefits from niacin, vitamin D3. When you have low blood pressure, we want to get the B vitamins in the system and rebuild the heart with cardiotrophin. Congestive heart failure is another one that really works well with that. Now, with all of those, it's nice to use these as basically a method of helping the heart to improve. And then when we have circulation problems, and this is one of the things that I do every month, I'm a little bit of a closet hypochondriac, and what I mean by that is I have stuff that comes into the office that I want to skip. And when I say a skip, I don't want it to see it happen to me. And so I do a treatment inside of the office called Chelation Therapy. What chelation therapy is basically it's a protein molecule with 4 vinegar molecules on the side, and basically it spring cleans your system, a molecule at a time. There's a really neat documentary available on the internet called Unleaded that talks about chelation therapy. I learned about this from an interventional cardiologist in 2005 at a conference. It is an IV treatment. There is some oral therapies available, but I really like the IV component. And basically, you guys, that is a real quick overview of heart conditions. Now, if you want some additional information, I put together the summary of this called In the Heart. If you'll just put in the comments, either on YouTube or Facebook, just put #heart. Also in the comments section, we do this every week. If you perceive value, please give me a comment, a shout out. If you want us to put together a specific topic that we teach about every single week, I'd love to see those comments as well. I've got some comments I can see that I need to go and put together. I also am excited to tell you guys later on this summer, we're still ironing out the exact dates for this, is we are going to do a 5-day challenge, the Wellness to Wellness, the heart edition, everything heart related. We're actually going to do an hour a day every week. And we're going to basically go over high blood pressure in depth, low blood pressure in depth, congestive heart failure, arteriosclerosis, atherosclerosis, periventricular tachycardia syndrome, or PVCs, atrial fibrillation. We're all going to put that together later this summer. So if you'll pay attention to the channel and our shout outs, that's what we're going to do. I'm also getting ready to go over to my Thrivers program, which is something that we do every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. It's a special program about how we do question answer periods. We design protocols for patients across the country. We help them with healthcare provider relationships and custom formulations. If you want any information about that, it's the Thrivers program at thewestclinic.com. I'm so excited to sharpen up some skills on blood pressure, on low blood pressure, high blood pressure, My takeaway for this, everybody, is please drink some more water. Number one. The next thing is move a little bit more. Park your car a little bit farther away. Eat healthy and alive foods. Decrease junk food. Decrease your inflammatory foods. The primary one is this bad addictive stuff that we all like called sugar. If you'd like some more information in the Thrivers program and what we can do specifically to take your care to another level, just go to thewestclinic.com. And next week, we're going to be unleashing another healthcare topic. I haven't picked it yet. I'm going to be going through the comments and working with my Thrivers tribe at 7 o'clock for a topic that we'd like to cover next week. I'm Dr. Jason West. That is our show Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock on the West Clinic community, the West Clinic Facebook, and Healthy Healing TV. That's my YouTube channel. That's our program for tonight, everyone. Thank you for your comments. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, 6 o'clock. I'm going to be posting our topics that are coming from our Thrivers tribe. That's our show for tonight. We'll see you later.